The man in the corner has not touched his coffee. He isn't being dramatic. He has simply learned that everything is information. A cooling cup tells you how long a man's been sitting. He'd rather not give any away for free. On the table, a phone. It looks like a phone, but its keypad rearranges itself every time the screen wakes, so the man behind him, memorizing his thumb, memorizes nothing. And there's a second code, one he keeps for special occasions. It doesn't unlock the phone, it kills it. None of this is paranoia. Paranoia is a feeling. This is arithmetic. His name used to be Emeka Osei. This is the story of a man who was failed, exactly once, by another human being, and decided to make sure it could never happen again. The solution was simple. Remove the humans. He came to America in 2018 with one bag and a scholarship, and America began teaching him things it did not mean to. The first was the air. He walked off the plane into a wall of cold that ran all day for a building nobody was in. Back home, in Lagos, electricity was a thing you counted. Here, no one counted anything. That was the part he never got over. Not the abundance, the not counting. He watched a janitor tip a barely touched meal into a bin. Food people back home would fight over, and nobody in the building even looked up. The second lesson came in a classroom. He had the right answer. He always had the right answer. But the professor's eyes slid past him to a boy in the front row who looked the part. And Emeka understood the actual curriculum. The system didn't reward being correct. It rewarded looking like the kind of person it already trusted. He came by his discipline honestly. His father, Chukwudi, was the finest electrical engineer in his corner of Lagos. 30 years of immaculate work. Every fuse box labeled in his own careful hand. On the nights the grid failed and the whole street ran a wire up the pole to steal what it needed, his father sat his family in the dark instead. "We will not be thieves," he'd say. Calmly. Like it settled something. It settled nothing. The men who stole the power kept their lights on. The man who built the grid sat in the dark. Emeka loved his father the way you love a monument. Deeply and from a distance, because a monument cannot move. He would keep the discipline. He just watched what the honesty cost and decided not to pay it. Then, in his final year, the system did to Emeka what it had done to his father. Only faster. A scholarship payment didn't clear. A signature went unsigned in an office he'd never see. His status lapsed. And a man with no status isn't a person anymore. He's a countdown. They offered him a choice and called it mercy. Fight it from a cell for a year and lose. Or sign and go quietly. He read the form the way his father read a wiring diagram. And he signed. Slowly. Every letter formed on purpose. A habit he was about to build a life around. He wasn't upset. He'd already found the bug. It wasn't the visa. It was that he'd trusted the people above him to do their jobs. The assumption was the flaw. He resolved to remove it. He rode to the airport behind glass that didn't open from the inside, and made himself one promise. Never again would he build his life on another person choosing to do right, for free. There was one complication. Her name was Maya. They'd met over a tray of rocks in a geology lab with the internet down. Both of them, for once, forced to use their eyes. She read surfaces for a living. She put a black stone in his hand, and he read it back to her instantly. Cooled too fast. Trapped its own gas. A rock caught in the act of telling on itself. She read a thing for what was true in it. He read it for the gap where the truth wasn't. She might have been the one person alive who could have read him, which is exactly why, when they came, he gave her a single word over the phone and hung up before it could become a goodbye. He couldn't secure her, so he did the only thing that would keep her safe. He left her nothing worth taking. Back in Lagos, a rented room over a phone shop, a ceiling fan, and a generator coughing in the dark. His father's dark, bought now, instead of suffered. He ran the post-mortem. Not who betrayed me. That question is for people who want to feel something. His question was an engineer's. Where did it break? And the answer was unavoidable. Nothing technical had failed. He had. He'd trusted one person, and a person is the one component you cannot test. He wrote it down. Then he burned it. Then he did the thing almost no one does. He studied the people who got caught. The man in Miami who pulled a fortune out of a relief program, clean, right up until he bought a Lamborghini, filmed it, and posted the video with the location still on. The government didn't catch him. He caught himself, in high definition, for likes. It was always the same shape. The tools worked. The person broke. They wanted to be seen. They trusted one friend too many. They got bored or greedy or proud. He mapped the failures like an engineer until one law was left standing. The human is the only part that ever breaks. One case came with a teacher, a ghost on a forum called Faraday, an old journalist whose source had been killed years back. Not because anyone cracked his encryption, because the metadata, who spoke to whom and when, never needed cracking. Faraday had one lesson, and Emeka took it like scripture. The tool will not save you. You are the part that breaks. Reduce the human element to one, and make that one yourself. So he started with the phone. Because the phone is the informant everyone carries willingly. He bought a Pixel, used, cash, 2 countries from where he'd use it, and replaced its soul with Graphene OS, an operating system that doesn't phone home. He stopped letting it finish his words too. The rhythm of your typing is a fingerprint. So he typed every character in full and signed his name slowly, the same way every time. A man gets caught in the places he lets himself get lazy. He decided not to have any. The keypad scrambled on every wake, so no camera could learn his hands. Left alone too long, it rebooted into a locked brick and threw the keys out of memory. Nothing warm left to take. And under the real code sat a second one, a duress code. It doesn't lock the phone, it erases it. Every encrypted byte turned to gravel no lab on Earth can reassemble. He set it up hoping never to use it. He built it for one moment. A boarder, an officer, unlock it. And him, calm, entering the wrong right number, while they watch their own evidence stop existing under their thumbs. Because hope is not a plan. Communication was next. And here he learned the distinction that ruins almost everyone. Encryption hides what you say. It does nothing about who you said it to, or when, or from where. The letter can be sealed. The envelope still has a postmark. He moved to Proton. Swiss email its own company can't read, but a court can still compel the envelope. When you logged in, the address you came from, the words stay secret, the pattern doesn't. So he never arrived as himself. A VPN first, always. Mulvad in Sweden, which sells you an account number instead of a name, keeps no logs it's been audited to prove, and takes payment in Monero. Let them subpoena the mailbox, they'd find a stranger standing at it. Then the money, and the joke at the center of it. Most people think Bitcoin is anonymous. Bitcoin is a public ledger. Every transaction ever made, written in stone, readable by anyone, forever. A glass tunnel. You walk through it certain you're invisible, while the whole street watches. So he moved everything into Monero, built by people who'd actually thought about it. The money went in and stopped answering questions about who sent it or where it went. That was the point. His real transaction went out hidden in a ring of decoys, 16 possible senders. No way to tell which was him. Every payment landed at a one-time address that belonged to no one. Even the amounts were sealed. The math still balanced without ever showing its work. The IRS offered 2 firms up to $625,000 each for a tool that could trace it. The money is still on the table. The chain is still standing. Then he built the machine around himself. And the machine's genius was that it was boring. 3 identities, 3 phones that never shared a room, a network, or a day. Shell companies across borders. A holding company in the British Virgin Islands. A face in a Panama free zone. A dull little front in Nigeria that actually paid its taxes. Clean at the top, real at the bottom. And in the middle, paperwork too tedious for any auditor to look at twice. He owned one bag. On the desk, a laminated photo of his parents. His father in the hard hat, not smiling. Kept less as sentiment than as a compass. Every human he could remove from the system, he removed. There remained exactly one he couldn't. We'll come back to her. The machine needed something to do, so he pointed it at a family office in Brickell and a deep-water port in Haiti that would never be built. The Cap Haitian Gateway. $23 million, wired toward a hole in the ground. The mark was a man named Rauk. He'd inherited his relationships and skipped the part where you learn anything. He explained the deal's banking to Emeka and got it wrong, twice, while Emeka nodded and let him feel brilliant. You don't correct the man you're taking. Somewhere in the paperwork, a junior analyst did her job. She found 2 permit dates that disagreed by 8 days, a whole fraud showing through a seam. She flagged it. Her supervisor weighed it against how badly everyone wanted the deal to be real, and buried it in one sentence. The investors are enthusiastic. Let's not create friction. Every institution grows exactly one honest person. It also knows exactly what to do with her. When it was time, he left the way he'd rehearsed 100 times. A members club, 40 floors above Panama City. A thief lifted the phone right off his table. Which was the plan? He gave it 90 seconds. Walked to the marble bathroom, entered the wrong right code, and watched his life dissolve into static in his palm. The thief got a decoy. And a brick. At the airport, there were 3 of him. A man ticketed on a flight he never boarded. A man who checked in and vanished before the gate. And the man who actually left. On a passport that had never touched a single deal. Below him, as the plane climbed, the city shed its power grid by grid, going dark one neighborhood at a time. The exact dark his father had spent 30 years fighting. Seen at last from above. They came for him afterward, because afterward was all they had. They followed the money, and it walked into Monero and never came out. They followed the email, and it ended at a Swedish exit node with no name behind it. They opened the phone, and it was a brick that had erased itself before a single glove touched it. The examiner wrote the only honest line in the file. No public record exists of a successful extraction from this configuration. We did not become the first. Someone flagged one loose thread. A 2012 file, a Lagos journalist who'd vanished under similar arithmetic. It was noted, considered, and dismissed. Wrong country, wrong decade. They wrote down how good he was and went home. Only one person was ever left in the blast radius. The one he never put in the machine because she'd never been in it. Maya. Months after he disappeared, a message reached her and erased itself in a day. 3 words. I'm sorry. Geology. The class where she'd taught him to read what a surface is hiding. He wasn't reaching for her. He was covering her. Handing her, on purpose, nothing anyone could ever take. His father had a word for a man who took what wasn't his, no matter how clean his hands looked afterward. Emeka spent 10 years making sure that word could never be attached to any of his names. He never once checked whether it could be attached to him. So he sits behind a cold coffee and a phone that hides its own face, watching a cursor blink in an empty window, owing a reply to no one. His father did everything right for 30 years and sat in the dark for it. His son did everything wrong and walked out into the light. Richer, safer, untouchable, and completely alone. Which turned out to be the only condition under which the machine would run. He beat every human being they ever sent to find him. He never did learn what his father would have called him. So the question the file leaves open was never whether he got away. It's which man the system was built to catch. The one who kept every rule, or the one who broke them all. He turns the glass a quarter by the rim, the way his father trued a wrench, and leaves the cursor blinking.